feet's all taken care of.
You English person, I'm sure that's.
Yeah, I know that I said it that way.
Need a
He did
separator
not.
from the-
Yes. Here. Daddy!
Something needs to be done. Since Samuel DeMoring explains how the county could step into help.
Now, the Sedgwick County Detention Facility has one deputy that is 3 inmates. Sheriff Easter says staff is overworked. Sheriff Easter has worked to increase their budget to advertise that they are hiring, but they're struggling to find candidates. The staffing problem is causing inmates to be moved out of county, but some facilities won't take females. Sheriff Easter says pay is the main issue surrounding staffing.
We're going to have to pay folks to come in and work in the jail in that environment a lot higher rate of pay. The long-term game plan has to be put into place so we're not get to this point again and don't trust with the employees. We just will fight in the future.
Sheriff Easter asked the Sedgwick County Commissioners for pay raises for the deputies. The commission plans on reviewing the budget to see if they can provide any relief. Here for you in Sedgwick County, Samantha Moore, KSN News 3.
And new 6-year leadership representing Wichita DJ Greg the Hitman Williams speaking out after another radio station incident with Williams on July the 6th. The attorney saying the allegations here.
Believe so. She was gonna go double check.
False security videos prove Greg left the building before start show ended that same documented.
Yeah. And it was, mhm. It's probably better.
Thanks, guys.
Chris does it. She can do it without me.
All right, guys, it is past 6 o'clock. Let's go ahead and get started.
Well, there it is.
Go ahead and call this meeting to order, the July Garden City Community College Board of Trustees. And it is, I have 6:02. Glad to be here, everybody. Thank you for sustaining the heat. We have, I think, a shorter meeting tonight. We'll see. We will be having executive session according to when Mr. Schrey is available. So be prepared for a jump in the schedule.
Still in that position. Still in that position. That would be done by 6,
I have a few comments to share with you. Garden City Community College will offer a 16 credit hour computer support specialist certificate this fall. All the needed courses will be offered and can be completed in the fall 2022 semester. Wow. This certificate provides an excellent starting point for individuals who wish to pursue a career in the information system industry. Ron Carlson is the computer science instructor, will be the contact person for that. So if anybody needs to go to school quick and get a trait, go for it. We do have summer practices of some of the athletes. They started this past week, and we want to wish them a safe and successful year. And that's all I have. And we don't have an SGA report, I'm guessing,
correct.
right? Do we have any new employees?
We do not tonight.
Okay, all right. So we're gonna go ahead and jump into executives, or I'm sorry, consent agenda.
Steps to improve the quality of life in the area.
I move that we approve the consent agenda for parts A, B, C. Thank you.
He muted.
No worries. All right. Is there any other discussion on this motion? All right, Beth made the motion and Leonard seconded to approve the consent agenda items A, B, and C. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. So let's talk about item D, the revenue neutral rate resolution. The information is on page 48. Dr. Ruda?
Yeah, so this is in the 2021 legislative session, Kansas legislative session. Senate Bill 13 was passed, which established the revenue neutral rate. And so essentially for each municipality taxing entity, the county clerk will send out in June what the revenue neutral rate will be for each of the entities. At that point, each of the taxing entities have until July 20 to provide notice to exceed the revenue neutral rate. So what that means for Garden City Community College is that currently our mill levy is established at 25.455 mils. Our revenue neutral rate came in at 22.553. So that would be a 3 mil reduction. So if we were not to make the resolution to exceed the revenue neutral rate, we would be setting our mill rate at 3 mils less than this current year. Administrative recommendation is that we approve the resolution to exceed the revenue neutral rate. It does not mean that we're going to exceed the mill rates. Our recommendation as we go into budget planning and that we'll bring forward for the board is to maintain the mill levy. So we will have a flat mill from last year carrying forward to this year. However, if we do not give notice to exceed the revenue neutral rate at this point and give notice to the county clerk by tomorrow, then in November, when the actual valuation comes in, if actual valuation changes in November from what we've been informed of in June, then budgets can change, which is why we request that we take action to exceed the revenue neutral rate. But putting on record there that our mill levy for this next year will be held flat, will be held level. Happy to answer any questions on that there, but we do have until July 20th to be able to give notice to the county clerk for the authorization to exceed revenue neutral rate.
So let me see if I understand this in layman's terms. This
Mhm.
does not affect the taxes that have been collected or will be collected at all. It just affects our proportion that we would receive, same as other tax entities that's above the estimates. So if it's $100, we would still get our proportion of that excess instead of being capped at.
That's correct. So yeah, so when the revenue neutral rate legislation came in, essentially it was to put into place a mechanism that limits not necessarily the mill levies that can be levied, but to put in a mechanism that shows where the revenues will be controlled. So because our valuation increased from last year to this year, then our mills are actually dropping by 3 mills in order to bring in the same revenue that we generated in FY22. So because of valuation increasing, our recommendation is to hold the mill levy flat, but to recognize the valuation increase with this year's budget.
So Dr. Ruda, if I understand this correctly, we put it out there, is this what then would be disseminated to newspapers and, so that people, community members would
Correct.
understand
Mhm.
what we're trying to do?
That is correct. So our next step then, once we give notice of exceeding, doesn't make any changes as far as that action being taken, but then moving into August, we would be publishing our budget for public notice at the August board meeting. Then we would have the public hearing on our budget, but we would be establishing our budget based on a flat mill that is consistent between this year carried forward into next year. So the public notice will have it'll have the budget listed as far as revenues, expenses, and then we would have the public hearing at the August board meeting.
Very good, thank you.
Mhm.
Other questions?
I think Carla had something she
Yeah,
might.
Carla, please.
So Shanda, just to kind of go back to your question. So on your property, you would be assessed the same amount, the same mill levy that you were last year. If your property valuation increased, obviously the taxes that go to the college would increase, but the assessment per se would be flat.
I think the idea of establishing the revenue neutral stance for the college is just reducing risk of
Mhm.
something happening in this near future with valuations. So,
That's correct.
And I think as we discussed last time, there's absolutely no benefit to not. turn the stamp speed.
Yeah, there's more harm that comes from not exceeding than there is to take the action to exceed.
If there's more money available or eligible for our piece of that fund.
Correct. Correct.
I believe we would just be following the city and county. They both have.
That is
Separate
my
directions.
understanding. Yes, from the conversations I've had, that's my understanding.
all right. So we need a motion and to approve this resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2022-8, a resolution to exceed the revenue neutral rate as defined by Senate Bill 13 and House Bill 2104, and is established by the county clerk of Finney County, Kansas. Whereas the Board of Trustees, of Garden City Community College Board of Trustees notified the county clerk of Finney County, Kansas, notice of intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate on or before July 20th, 2022, and the intent of the Board of Trustees to exceed the revenue neutral rate of 22.553 mils established by the county clerk. And whereas the Board of Trustees placed the notice of intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate on the Garden City Community College website and published the notice of intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate in the Garden City Telegram at least 10 days prior to August 23rd, 2022. And whereas the notice of intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate set at a tax rate and budget hearing for August 23rd, 2022 at 6 p.m. in the endowment room in the Beth Tedder Student Center, and whereas the tax rate and budget hearing will be held on August 23rd, 2022, at which time taxpayers were given an opportunity to comment on the tax rate and budget, and whereas following the tax rate and budget hearing, the Board of Trustees discussed the tax rate and budget, determined that the revenue neutral rate established by the county clerk should be exceeded for Garden City Community College's 2022-23 budget. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees, Garden City Community College as follows. The Board of Trustees shall exceed the revenue neutral rate of 22.553 mils by approving a mill levy of 25.455 mils. The Board of Trustees will review and adopt the Garden City Community College 2023 budget to be discussed at the tax rate and budget hearing
on August 23rd, 2022. On or before August 1st, 2022, the Board of Trustees shall certify to the county clerk the ad valorem tax to be levied by the Board of Trustees. I said that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving resolution 2022-8, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have a question. I should have brought it up before we approved everything. Last board meeting, when we were talking about the cybersecurity program approval, item H in our minute, it was the degree, the associate in science instead of both. And I think that has been corrected, but as it goes through the records, we need to make sure that is correct. I just bring that as a point, and Mark says it's okay, so we're okay.
All right, moving on our agenda. Item 4, confirmation of monitoring reports. We're starting on page 52 of our booklet. The first monitoring report to review is the mission of Garden City Community College. I'll give you a minute to review the information Dr. Ruda presented and ask for any comments or discussion.
Madam Chair, I believe the statement, the mission is broad enough and same time pointing enough to include several of our ends that we have in our manual about the contributors. Goes to say about, student success and like I said, several of those categories.
Do you feel like it's encompassing?
Yes,
I agree.
I don't think it needs to be changed.
Any other comments for the mission and the interpretation of the president's explanation? Is there anything that you expect more than what's presented? Okay, moving on. Financial planning, we have several of these to review. The interpretation is on page 55. The president shall not cause or allow budgeting which contains too little information to enable accurate projections of revenues and expenses, separation of capital and operational items, cash flow, and disclosure of planning assumptions. Go ahead and review the interpretation, and I welcome your comments. Concerns?
Monitoring reports show they exceeded expectations.
I think so too. All right, moving on. Number 2, the president shall not cause or allow budgeting which does not allow a review of estimated budget in detail by department or cost center in both percentages and dollars of expenditures requested compared to the previous 2 years of the budget. Let's review the interpretation, and if you have any comments, please speak up.
So far, I believe it's been very transparent.
Having just gone through the budget retreat and looking at this information that's required, it's evident that they're meeting that monitoring indicator. Ready to move on? Okay, on page 56. And 57, the president shall not exceed the working budget for the fiscal year, fail to maintain a reserve of at least 20%, and fail to maintain the capital improvement fund at $250,000. Go ahead and review the information, page 57, and I welcome your comments. I would also remind you that we did have some conversation about increasing these numbers and in our budget retreat. Today is not the time to discuss that, but at next month's meeting, when we review the language, we'll do that. But I still welcome your comments.
Madam Chair, it is again showing that the administration goes along with the ends and does everything in their power and has increased the holdover or cash reserves. So just recommend they keep doing what they're doing. This is good.
I echo what Trustee Rupp is talking about, the excellence that Carla and Ryan and his team put together, because I have been witness to past budgets and requests or budget proposals that were not this nice. So appreciate the positivity of it.
Carla does a tremendous job there. We're lucky to have her.
All right, moving on. The president shall not use cash reserves. Go ahead and review that information and please comment if you'd like to.
For example, we're going to have to do something because we're going to have a lot more money to spend on fuel for travel. We're gonna have to either do something with the budget or cut travel. Is that what some of this money can be used for? So cash reserve are used for offsetting expenses, working budget. That's what that's talking about. And those are real possibilities of what we're going to be facing this next year.
They are, I mean,
You bring it back.
I think any budget year stands with unknowns, but with the fuel, we have accounted and increased, doubled our fuel budget for this next year, taking into account fuel costs at this time. Is that enough? We'll see. We are having some of those conversations about whether we can limit travel there as well. So there's a variation of ways that we can save money, but also accounting for an increase.
You have to come up with a definitive plan in case or when that happens. Is that what you're telling me?
No, they have.
Right. I mean, yeah, our plan at this point. Well, the other options on the table are to limit travel. So some of our off-season travel that isn't required for competition could be limited if it is needed to be. At this point, we have not taken that off the table. Correct. Yeah, we're still trying to be able to accommodate the travels that, fall and spring ball both that occur. We believe we've allowed for it with the increase in our budget for fuel. Let's hope so.
I think Leonard's question is, worst case scenario, this fund could be used for that expense if needed, correct? The reserves,
The reserves could be.
yeah,
Yes.
not the capital outlay, but the reserves, yes.
Now, that's something that you have to bring back to the board.
No, not statutory. Sorry. Statutorily, we would not have to unless we exceeded the published budget, but in the, but we watch those, we monitor those monthly. So we would certainly take action if we saw a trend that we were concerned about. Where you would see that if we had to use those reserves is at this time next year. But we would certainly, make you aware, but there wouldn't have to be any action taken.
Well, I'm well aware, and I'm sure as you all have demonstrated in the past, you're not aware of this. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, sure.
When it says right here, must receive approval from the board. Just point out and bring it out, but I'm well aware that you folks are making us aware.
Mhm.
All right, moving on. Page 58. The president must seek other revenue sources for capital improvements and special projects. This includes benefactors, partnerships, grants, and other external opportunities. Dr. Ruta's list is quite lengthy there in regards to his other revenue sources.
What have you been doing in your spare time?
Dream workforce.
Or sleeping.
That is, yeah.
Being on the boards.
Just checking on the VPs to make sure they have things to do and, yeah.
Very impressive, very impressive. Listen.
Well, again, team effort. These things don't happen without everybody rowing in the same direction, and it's a team effort.
You know, the subject came up, ownership lately in our meeting last night. This is things that I think needs to be put out. To the public. That's ownership lately.
Mhm. It's a good point.
Ready to move on? All right. Page 60, we're talking about the general executive constraints. And this is number 7. The president shall not allow for purchases between 10,000 and 50,000 without first giving consideration to local Finney County businesses with a maximum 10% premium. questions or comments?
Once again, I believe it's very transparent.
Right, I agree. All right, page 61. The president shall not initiate new programs or retain existing programs without consideration of cost effectiveness and overall value. Go ahead and take some time to review the interpretation, and then I welcome your comments. So I just, sorry, I just have a curious question.
Uh-huh.
The information talking about the potential job availability in our area and the growth and the wages. How does one get a hold of that data? How did you find it?
So we have a software subscription that we utilize that runs prevailing wages on a regional, state, national level. So as we're looking at new programs, as we're looking at viability of new programs, we're using this. It comes from Department of Labor. So that information is being reported into this software, and then we can run those scenarios on regional, state, national levels. I don't know if there's anything else, Mark, that you want to say, but.
All that data is, it's Kansas Department of Labor data. It's available publicly. We like the program subscription because it kind of compiles and combines a bunch of information, including job openings. It allows us to get more specific than just the state or an individual region inside of the state. It allows us to go county by county. So yeah, that's the research that goes into those components.
And it gives you trend, I mean, with that, it gives you trend analysis and projections of where, take carpentry, for example, where is carpentry occupations going to be in the next 5 years? And then, as Mark had alluded to, you can look at it on a county by county, regional basis, and dissect it about as succinctly as you want to. But as we go forward and put new programs to the board as well as to the Board of Regents, those are all aspects that they're looking at the state level to make sure that programs are bringing forward have high need, what the wages of those occupations are going to be, but that's where that data comes from.
Dr. Rudy, you could also probably get a hold of Shannon Dick with economic development.
Correct.
That's what he does, and
Yeah.
his analytical skills is way above anybody else's.
Yeah, there's a tremendous resource there with economic development. Yes.
I did have a question in your addressing the interpretation. Why wasn't some of the process that you went through with the dental program put in here? That would really show the process of denying.
I debated that as far as putting it in, and it could have given a concrete example there with the dental assistant. Because I think that that point does lead to considerations that we look at there with programs, and not every program that's reviewed necessarily gets brought forward. I debated that, and I don't have a good reason why I didn't include it other than just trying to be very broad in the interpretation used, but could have given that example.
I think it is a good example of not everything that comes to you is accepted.
Correct.
You go through the right process, you and your team
Mhm.
go through that process.
I would guess too that part of the considerations are where those programs or studies or courses are also offered within our region, trying not to duplicate or duplicate something too close, I guess I should say.
Well, it's absolutely right there. I mean, so any program, once the board approves, well, say like cybersecurity, medical assistant, the two most recent programs, the next step then is to be able to take it to, since they're technical programs, taking it to the Technical Education Authority. As part of that step, there is a period of time where there is allowed for comments from the other sectors and the other institutions across the state. So they can oppose the program, saying that we have this program and we feel like it's going to jeopardize our program if this one is added. So that is absolutely something. You know, the fallacy with that there is that there's already duplication of services. Every program has nursing, or every college in this region has nursing. Every region, you know, every college has cosmetology. So, you know, there is some fallacy there that comes with that there if there is opposition. But we don't run into that a whole lot out here and haven't experienced that, but that is a hearing period that is built into that process.
And just to draw your attention that there's additional information on page 62 about program reviews. Okay, perfect. All right, I think that gets us to the conclusion of the monitoring reports. I'm going to say we accept the monitoring reports as presented, unless anybody has any other comment. We're good? We're good. Thank you. What news yet?
You said closer to 7.
Oh, here.
Pretty close.
All right. Next on our agenda is to review the policy governance, the academic advancement, asset protection, and executive limitations. So we're starting on page 63.
In the fall, I met with people in the school support services program. There is a statewide conference. It's Kansas Association of Academic.
Kansas Academic Advising Network.
Network, yeah, the end. But anyway, and they asked me today, as a trustee, because we were talking about speakers and so forth, going back to the old age of academic advising. And I did mention to them, yes, that we have this annual review of this. So as trustees, we are also.
Well, you kind of led me into my comments.
Oh, I did.
No, you did good.
Oh,
You did good.
Nice transition.
Yeah, nice segue. All right. So just to review the policy, students desiring academic advancement will be prepared for successful transfer to other colleges and universities. And the 3 points are that students will have appropriate knowledge of transfer requirements. Students will have the academic prerequisites sufficient for successful transfer. Students will have the opportunities for advanced degrees. When I reviewed the information that was presented on the interpretation, on number 1, the students will have appropriate knowledge of transfer requirements. The report indicated that the percentage of students that were being counseled was in the range of 49 to 77. And 46 to 50% knew where they needed to get more information about transferring to another school. My guess is that those percentages are a bit low, probably because of COVID and an inability to connect with your advisor, but I don't know that. My comments to you guys are you satisfied with that? Or do we need to encourage administration to do better?
Madam Chair, and I'm satisfied with it. I know the college has a page on their website talks about transfer requirements that the students can go to directly and see. And being in some of that, advising in the past, what's hard is some colleges doesn't accept the same things. Example, I know when I was on the curriculum committee, we were asked to put in a music class. Dodge City had it, Liberal had it. We just copied it word for word, put our name in, and it was for K-State, I think K-State. Their chairman of that organization or the music department said we didn't have anybody to teach it. We didn't have the right qualifications, which we had a doctor who was teaching the same program. So, you know, he had something against Garden City, obviously, because when you put in the same information other colleges put in and then they deny it. I know we appealed that and got it later, but some of that's hard to tell the student.
Mhm.
I think we've made tremendous advancement in this because just recently, the Board of Regents have all agreed on the transfer program.
They've agreed to review it. They've agreed to review it, but not. We're making progress. We're making
Well, I
progress.
know speaking to this, way back when, I mean, transferability has always been something that we worked for. And we would have the agreements with KU, all the Board of Regents. In fact, at one time, we had a handbook for all of our advisors that listed every course in our category. And then we had 4 days, 40 state, KU state, with the course that it actually went to replace.
Mhm.
And we would run into problems. We would hear from the students or we would hear from somebody and say, wait a minute, they did not take this course. And so we would look and we would contact our transfer person on that campus. What it boiled down to 9 times out of 10 was an academic advisor had not read the thing or anything, just assumed, oh, that doesn't sound right. And we were able to prove that we needed to know about it. We needed to hear about it. And we were very successful in working through our advising program. But it was just a case of so many times, nobody bothered to pick up their transfer articulation and look at it.
I think as far as looking at the monitoring report based on academic advancement, the number that does concern me most is the one that 49% of students indicated they know what is required to complete their degree compared to 77% previous year. That
Mhm.
dramatic drop, that's what's most concerning to me, that we're not making them feel like they know what they actually need to graduate.
Correct. Yeah, and I think, I mean, not able to put our finger on one specific thing. I mean, I think COVID can definitely play a part in that, but I do think some of the other aspects there is our transition in the self-service. So we have started to automate a considerable amount more of our student services within advising and enrollment. So with that, we're setting up 4 semester plans for advising. So, you know, a lot of what we're running into is with the, with the student culture and having a very immediate gratification mentality that these students have, a lot of them are wanting to be able to have access at their fingertips of being able to enroll online, being able to see their advising plan online, but not necessarily coming in and meeting with advisors. They want to be able to have access available to them on their phones, computers. So a lot of, the steps that we used to take face-to-face have now been transitioned and are being done through our self-service portal with technology, to where we build out and our advisors build out within that first advising session a 4-semester plan of what it is that the students need to take in order to matriculate and move towards graduation. So at that first advising session, that 4-semester plan is set up. Each semester that they transition in, then their plan for the next semester is automatically set and in place for them. So they may not necessarily have to meet with an advisor unless they have questions or they're changing their major or, just need some assistance and things on that end. So some of it is the transition and automating services. Some of it's, COVID, but I think a lot of it is just trying to figure out what's that right balance of still being able to pride ourselves on that one-to-one intrusive advising and being what it is that a community college should be with having those services face-to-face, but also trying to meet the students where they're at with their expectations being that they can have everything accomplished virtually and technology wise there as well. So I think, some of those are caveats that lead to the changes that you're seeing there reflected in the surveys.
Still a responsibility of the students to know themselves. Pardon this. Lead a horse to water. It's can't make it drink. Given all that. Sometimes, 2 months of the benefit of that.
There was the huge drop from last year to this. That's what something changed.
Right.
In either their knowledge or ability to.
I think the other piece of it there, and again, you can't just put your finger on one specific thing, but the other piece of this there with lagging data is that a lot of this data is coming from the spring of 21. The spring of 21, we were shut down from March until July. So a lot of that time, spring enrollment or fall enrollment opens in the spring and April. So all of our enrollment that we were doing was by phone, by computer, meeting the students on Zoom. So, some of those relationships that typically we build on early enrollment days face-to-face, we were doing virtually. So I think some of that's because of lagging data there then as well.
But I think virtual advising should still count, right?
So, yes. However, what I would say is the level of engagement may not always be there. Do they have their screen on? Are they paying attention? Are they, so I think, there's several factors that go into it there that, yes, virtual advising should still happen, should still count. We're still doing it, even though we're back to face-to-face. Some of it's trying to figure out how it is that you maintain that level of engagement that keeps the students engaged and involved in the conversation and not disconnected there as well.
I know that Leonard's right about leading them to it, but I know some of the problems we used to have was students looked up to other students and was given the wrong advice. And come time for last semester, he was very upset that he didn't have the right credits because he listened to the other students saying, no, you don't need to take that. So some of that's going on too.
So let me just tell you kind of the options that I thought of. One option is if we do think that that this is an unusual circumstance, that we can just monitor and see what happens next. Evaluation, which would be spring 2023, I believe, right?
Correct.
The second option would be for that point number 1, we could say we expect X% of students will have the appropriate knowledge of the transfer requirements.
I'm afraid that's.
It's not needs, it's an expectation. Yep. But I welcome your comments.
I would suggest that we go by the first one and see what this next year, since we're kind of getting out of COVID, but since COVID's on the rise, who knows if we'll have to go back into it.
I would agree.
I agree. I don't want to get so specific until we do further.
Okay. Leonard, Shanda?
I'm okay with kind of, let's wait this COVID period out and see what things level out and do. I don't think it's too hard to set an expectation.
Right, right.
If I could just comment in support of that, I think I was looking frantically trying to find the number prior to the 77%. And I'm not able to find it that quickly, but I do understand that to be a significant drop. It's out of the norm. And I think that it very well may just fall in line with, the entire institution transitioning extremely quickly to something very unfamiliar. I would also say we have a lot of institutional efforts focused on quality advising. Nicole Dick, Division Chair for Math and Science, sat in on every one of the meetings related to the statewide general education package, which would be a huge boost for transfer in the state. And we'll continue to monitor that as it continues its way through the Board of Regents. And then we've also continued advisor training and those sorts of things. And I think it's we're on a path. I think it is good, however, to note as a part of just accountability for the institution that the board does look at these numbers and they do encourage us to act and respond. And that's an important part of the accountability. In my mind is thinking about our accreditation visit or a mock visit that we had yesterday. So I appreciate the space for a comment.
I think at one point to consider, me too, as a advisor training. I think it's really important.
All right. We will not propose any changes to this language for now and see what happens in the next academic year. The next one that we're looking at is asset protection, page 64. So we've already made some changes that are reflected in this policy, but I did not have any proposed recommendations. Please feel free to take a look at it and comment if you have any suggestions. If anything doesn't feel clear or it needs to be defined better.
Madam Chair, I think it follows just exactly the line that we have put forth.
Now that we've had 1 month of this new limit, how's it been for financing and reporting and administration? No change or
Noticed
better?
in
Since we're kind of in a transition period from one budget year to another, there hasn't been a lot of activity, but we have seen, I think, ultimately, especially on the facilities side, it will bring some efficiencies to getting some projects accomplished. And so that's the whole goal. But yeah, we're kind of in a holding pattern right now until I I finished doing some work.
I get it. I get it. All right, the next one, page 65, compensation benefits. Did not have any changes to propose. Please review it and see if you have any comments. Nope. Okay, hearing none, we'll leave those as written for now. All right, one more thing that I'd like to review on or talk about is the loose piece of paper that I provided to you. One of the items that Dr. Fisher at our retreat wanted us to develop was a set of objectives for 2022, 2023 for the board. And these are the objectives that I had in my notes, but of course, please give me your input and comment. The first one was professional development. Board members will participate in educational offerings related to trustee roles and responsibilities, workforce development, governance, diversity, equity, and inclusion, public relations and image. Those topics were the ones that we talked about in our retreat. Does anybody have any additional somethings? My thought was that Dr. Ruda and I could get together and see what offerings are available for educational opportunities, whether from ACCT or attending a national conference or something like that, and give all of us the opportunity to attend those.
Once you get on their list, like if you sign up for one through the ACCT, every time something comes, there's an opportunity, and there's no cost to it. It's all on your computer, like all the webinars.
Yeah.
And the rural, there's one section for rural community. There's an excellent opportunity for hitting it without leaving your chair. Here's got in front of you.
And I believe those are recorded, so you can go back and watch them also.
All right, I'm going to move on. Number 2, we had set the goal that we want to get through accreditation. So I came up with this one. Board members will increase their knowledge of the components of the HLC accreditation, participate confidently in discussions with the reviewers, and continue to contribute to the Garden City Community College strategic plan. And so just by attending our mock survey last night, I mean, that helps to already meet this goal. And then the second part was I wrote down those questions that the trainers presented to us so that we can develop that answer list that they talked about. If you guys remember any other questions that I might have missed? You have your notes. Huh?
I do.
I think we should, as part of this objective or goal, is to continue our monthly presentations from Dr. Malone.
may not be included in here. It's about student success measures and KPIs.
Mhm.
Full and long-term planning. That was something.
Actually had that as number 4. Oh, but
Oh, under support the president.
no, as one of the goals, but you're right, it needs to be a question to answer.
For part of accreditation. Okay, I see what you're saying on that.
Yep.
Uh,
I mixed it up, sorry.
Yeah, I think the only other thing that I had differently there just was as far as input or feedback from stakeholders, and then with grievances, complaints, how those are handled or resolved.
We also talked about integrating or being integrated in the strategic plan. How board members are part of that, and we need to add that to the list. All right. Moving on, number 3 was that we talked about, there were some identified policies and policy governance that needed some revision. And these were the ones that I voted for things to add. And then number 4 was the last one of the goals that we picked, futuristic thinking. How we can work with the president and administration to review and update the college's strategic direction. So those were the 4 items that we talked about in retreat. Our options are, I think, to prioritize and accept one or all, or a couple of these. And then the other thing we talked about was either assigning some committees or doing a study session, some of these to get them completed. So I'd like to hear from you what you'd like to do with this. This is our objectives.
Study session closer to the site visit might be a good idea. So that way we're all fresh with some of these answers and sooner, but for sure leading up closer to the visit to make sure we're all comfortable with what we learned last night, what we researched from that.
Specific to
Those questions.
those
and answers.
questions.
Yeah,
Sure.
to that whole kind of section, two part.
That's a good idea.
And I mean, we can expand it beyond that, but you know, for sure. That part, I think. Hearing each other's ideas helps each of us.
I agree with the work session instead of a committee. We have 6 of us here with different backgrounds and different thought process that would put more into it than just 1 or 2 of us.
Really do thank you for putting this together.
So I hear, I kind of hear you guys.
I
Go
also
ahead.
agree that the study session is probably.
Yeah, it sounds like that's a priority for us, yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that we all felt so much more comfortable after last night. I think one more time of us all together going through those questions we learned last night that are potential examples, and feeling comfortable with our responses to those kind of things. That ease that site visit and the nerves that go along with it for.
Jeff, Leonard?
But, go ahead. I prefer the group session to committees.
Do you guys have a month in mind you'd like to do that? September? August?
What would be a good time if you're planning? I mean, getting the board all, looking over at how we are preparing for the expectation visit, a warm up visit.
Prior to November.
Yes.
October, bro.
The assurance argument locks in October, the final draft of it. That'd probably be a good timeline.
Mhm.
I kind of see a study session of 2 hours.
Mhm.
Does that sound? Like evening or weekend?
Mhm.
Are we still talking having another kind of mock session before HLC?
No, I don't think it would be a mock. It would
Well,
just
not a
be
mock.
just going through questions and replicating a little bit of what we went through last night.
So we should probably have that after this session.
That would be the study session,
That would
correct?
be it.
Yeah.
That would be it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can see that could be assurances or replacement.
Mhm.
We're not beating something that definitely no longer exists.
All right. Between 1, 2, 3, and 4, or any other suggestions? Do you have any other priorities?
It's a good start. This is a good start.
In other words, you want to do all of them, or?
Well, I think we could discuss that in the study session.
So in the study session, we keep working on our list and our
Correct.
plan is what you're saying. Yes.
What about number 2 and with our plan of where we go?
I was gonna say.
2 and
let's do
3.
Number 2 first. and-
Yes, and then when we feel that's complete, then we.
The others. Okay.
And I like number 5 too.
Yeah.
Crystal ball.
I know we do.
I don't know, are you thinking like mid-October? I mean, the visits, visits early November. I mean, I could look at mid-October timeframe.
We could do the second Tuesday, like kind of like we did this time, October 11th.
Does that put 2 meetings back to back in the same week?
No.
2 weeks.
1 week and then 1 week.
Perfect.
Unless you want to. So tentatively, let's shoot for October 11th. 6?
6.
6 to 8,
That's the work session.
yes. So Jody, you got that on? Thank you. Okay. Thank you for your input.
Set a date for the other one. The review.
No, I think that is going to be the review.
Okay, I thought that was a session, work with these.
We're gonna do this. And then what I heard you say, Shem, is that we'll set the
Figure out which
stage for
one
the
of
rest.
next.
Mhm.
What
Okay.
the plan after that, but I think right now we're all just kind of thinking expectations, what's on our minds, so.
It's the priority. All right, thank you, I appreciate that. I always welcome your comments and revisions. This is our plan. So please let me know if you have additional ideas to include. Okay. Bad news.
I'm sure, where would we have that?
Probably right in here.
Right there?
Mhm.
See what Ray and Jody can find for us. That's good.
Food motivates adults. All right, I'm gonna bring up one more topic and then I'll be done for the evening. Last month's self-board assessment. The results are that questions 1 and 2 were unanimous, that we met that indicator. Question number 3 talks about maintaining confidentiality. This is the second month that a person commented that we did not maintain confidentiality or conversations were not confidential. I'm a little bit concerned by this, and I just wanted to remind you what we talked about last month, that if you have some concerns about what's been said, we need to understand what the worry is. You're welcome to approach me and talk to me about it. If that doesn't feel comfortable, please approach Dr. Ruda so that we can make sure that this doesn't grow into something worrisome or bothersome. I want to, if something's bothering a person, please let's take care of it. Numbers 4 and 5 were unanimous that we met that quality. Number 6 was a not applicable. Number 7 was unanimous. In regards to HLC clarity, 5 of us indicated 4 and 1 of us indicated 5. So we're on the mend there. That is all that I have to talk about. So we are on others. Next agenda item. Is there any, there's no public comment, correct? Okay. President's report.
Several updates, just starting with some recent announcements. This past week, the NJCAA came out with their all academic American teams and wanted to extend congratulations to 76 of our Bronkbuster student athletes who earned their spot on the national all academic American teams. Additionally, we had 8 of our programs who cumulatively had above a 3.0 as a team. Volleyball, men's golf, softball, men's and women's basketball, men's and women's soccer, and baseball. So congratulations to them.
Above the what?
Above a 3.0 as a team. Also announced this last week, our volleyball team. The American Volleyball Coaches Association announced that Garden City Community College Volleyball was the recipient of the 2022 National Team Academic Award, thanks to their team cumulative GPA of a 3.55, all with 11 players posting above a 3.0. So that is a great award there for the team and shows excellence within the classroom there from, so congratulations to Coach Hiltz and the volleyball team. Back on June 27th, we hosted the groundbreaking, the STEM Success Center, and had Senator Moran on campus. And along with that, Senator Moran had also announced that Garden City Community College had secured $1 million in federal funding as part of congressionally directed spending. So I'd like to thank Senator Moran for his support and advocacy and help in being able to secure that. Those funds will be used to update IT equipment as well as technology in each of our high school outreach sites to be able to improve and enhance distance technology and what we're able to offer on distance education. Over the past month, we have also received word from the Kansas Department of Commerce that we had submitted a tax credit application back in the spring, and we were awarded $150,000 in tax credits, which will be able to be sold at the 50% threshold, with this funding going towards the fine arts. And then additionally, we have $500,000 in tax credits that'll be available at the 60% threshold, with that funding being directed towards a STEM project as well. So working on those, and for those that may have questions, or if you do receive any requests about that, please direct those to Scott, and he'll be coordinating the efforts. Scott Kudrowski will be coordinating the efforts on the tax credits here for the college. Enrollment update as of this morning, fall enrollment is up in head count 25%, 28% in credit hours. So those are things that are trending positively there, with improvements that have been made in advising and enrollment processes. Today, we started the drone camp as part of the STEM Title V. Went over and welcomed them to campus. We had 10 students that were over, and they'll be on campus today, tomorrow, and Thursday, all day, building and learning how to fly drones. So it was a great initial camp, and many more camps to come there as part of the STEM programming with Title V. Couple other things. On October 26th through 29th is the National ACCT conference in New York City. I wanted to give those dates to where if any of you are interested in attending, we'll just ask that you let Jody know here in the next week, so that we can be able to meet the early bird deadline on registration and getting flights and everything secured there then as well.
What was the date again?
October 26th through 29. She did email the link to you there, so you have access to the website, and dates are then as well on email.
I don't want to go by myself, but
Okay. Last few things, just wanted to thank and acknowledge the board for your participation in the HLC training last night. I thought it went well, and Appreciate Mark coordinating those efforts on the all-day work on campus as well as with the board as we prepare for the visit in November. So thank you for that. And then lastly, at your seats should be a 2-page document that is called the Spring 2022 Campus-Wide Assessment of Services. This is an assessment that is done each year by employees that provides opportunity to go in by office, by department, and be able to rank. You can see the questions that are asked, but be able to rank whether or not this office is helping to meet the mission and vision of the college. Part of it is satisfaction. And then there's also opportunity to provide feedback and comments within this. What I provided you is the feedback that has came back for the president's office. I feel like in transparency, it does no good for me to collect this information and hold it tight to my chest. This is valuable information for you to be able to have so that you can see the feedback that is coming from the campus. You can see that this is information there with comments that have came back in regards to it. I do take this seriously. It's something that I look at and assess and really determine how it is that I need to change and improve on how it is that I do the work for the college. But I wanted to be able to convey this information to you for your benefit there as well. So we'll plan on being able to provide this to you on an annual basis so you have this information at your discretion.
This is the kind of information I talk about, including in his evaluation process.
Mhm.
Why do you think the response rate is so low?
Yes.
It is a very lengthy survey.
Yeah, those are things that we are looking at. I mean, it is lengthy. So you have various, I mean, you have each of the administrative positions that are being ranked, each of the departments and divisions on campus. So it becomes very lengthy when you're sitting and answering those questions specific to each of those individuals and departments. So I think, part of the feedback that we've heard there is trying to be able to condense. So it's not, I think the other part of it there is a timing of when it's sent out. It's sent out at the end of the spring semester when you're right in the middle of enrollment and finals and every other thing that hits at that point. So that's another aspect we're evaluating there as well on the timing.
When you got less than 30% responding to some of these questions, it's
Although the typical survey, if you go out there and look, is a 10% response. I'm not saying that we want typical, but no, it is something that we're looking at to have a broader feedback forum on this. Yeah.
One of the ways the overall survey, I think it's over 150 questions. Some departments around campus in their non-academic department assessments that they do yearly, they do use some of those responses as a way as data on their outcomes. But we have talked, once we get past this HLC cycle, about more specific ways to condense and combine some of these surveys.
would it even be possible to do it segments instead of all at once? This semester, answer questions related to this half, or would that take some of the burden off of staff and get the information you're actually?
I think it's definitely something to be looked at. Mhm. Yeah, just to be able to break it up a bit. Mhm. That is all I have for my report.
Right. Next on our agendas, we have two program reviews. First up is camp program review. It starts on page 66.
Yes, so we have Itzel Rodriguez, who's the director of the camp program here, just to provide a summary and be able to answer any questions that you do have on this, but we're very excited about the outcomes of this program. Mhm. Thanks. Whoops, Edsel, I'm gonna have you. For those that are on Zoom. Yes.
My name is Ixel Rodriguez, and I am the coordinator for the Camp Scholarship Program. This is a partnership between Kansas State University College of Education, Garden City Community College, and Colorado State University at Pueblo. So it's 3 sites. In our grants, sometimes we're called CANCO, Kansas, Colorado, for the partnership that we have. We have had this program since 2009. So it's been 13 years already. And we're about to start year number 4 this month. The total amount of students that we serve every year is 45, 20 Garden City Community College, 20 CSU in Pueblo, and 5 in Kansas State University. Thanks to COVID, we have been able to serve more than 20 as K-State was closed for a good number of months. So we were able to serve more students thanks to the funding that we have available from them. So we were shifting the funding. Right now, we have 23 students that will be served next freshman year, this school year. And they represent different communities in Southwest Kansas, from Hugoton to Ulysses, Johnson, Stanton County, Garden City. We have a student from Laken who's also going to be playing for the basketball team. So we have a good cluster of students that we try to keep the group as diverse as we can. One of the main requirements are that students must qualify for the migrant certification nationwide. This is a nationwide program, and students in every school district who qualify under the federal guidelines as migrant have a certification. Let me show you. It could be from any state. And that certification has a database number that's what will allow us to serve them. They must be US citizen or permanent residents of the United States. In other words, they have to be able to apply for financial aid. The information from financial aid will help us find out what are the need analysis. If the students is in high need, if we are able to provide them with extra funding, if we can. So every student during the freshman year receive a total of $3,000, which is higher than some of the scholarships that we have available. The system that created this program back in 1965 believed that students who comes from migrant families need a lot of support and a lot of financial help, as they come from families and situations in which they might not have all the needs met. Through the program, we try to help them not only with the scholarship, but also any kind of materials that they might need, from calculators to certain books, like some of the classes that they might need to take. We'll need a workbook. We will buy that for them. Most of the time, so far, I would say during the last 10 years, we have had extra funds that will pay also stipends for students who want to take summer classes. This year, we were able to identify 11 of our students. So each one of them received $1,000. On a regular semester, camp provides about $37,000 to 20 to 23 students per semester. Our program only allowed the camp program to provide scholarships during the freshman year, 2 semesters. That's all we are able to serve them. The summer classes is whatever money we have available. There are some years in which we have more money than that. And there are years in which students need, for example, they need extra materials for students that are in engineering, for example, and they need to buy different items for the physics class. We will be able to buy that for them. Any questions so far?
Their sophomore year, they can qualify for other scholarships. through
Right.
college,
Yes, I work with them to try to find as much scholarships. And we are really good at helping them also to get involved in the community, especially students who come from small communities. And depending on what their majors are, we stress out the need to have community service. We also try to help them with scholarships and help them get into internships. The CAMP program nationwide is moving towards offering a good number of national internships. And this is with the help of some of the alumni that have gone through the programs, and they now work in different fields that are able to provide this as well. Any question? No?
How about computers? Can you get computers for these students?
If the students need computers, we advise them to get into the program that we have on campus so they can participate on that. Out of the group of students that actually might need that, a computer or so, very seldom I find students that are require or need help with computers. Yeah.
What do you see as the future for your program?
Gosh, I hope we can keep going forever.
For sure.
Back in the years, back in the early 70s, they were hoping to expand the scholarship to the sophomore year with the idea that our students will have at least an associate degree. There has been so many controversy, as you well know. The term migrant is so old-fashioned and it gets confused. And one of the marketing strategies that we're trying to bring up to the public is migrant doesn't have to be immigrant. It means mobility. It means working in any kind of agricultural jobs. And within the criteria of the program, only certain jobs will qualify as migrant. If we take families that, for example, work at Tyson, just to give you an example, if they work in the cleaning department, they don't qualify because you have to have contact with either the animal, the crop, to be able to qualify.
Thank you for all the information.
I would say keep up the good work.
Thank you. Well, I have good support.
Well, I would just
Stable.
say, I mean, just ending there too. I mean, I think as you can see, I mean, this is a vital program that serves a population and the results that they have there through their evaluation plan and what they have with the benchmarks definitely help not only on the recruitment, but the retention and graduation from Garden City Community College. So kudos to Itzel, and definitely we'll do everything we can to continue to make sure that this program is served here at Garden City Community College.
With a respect for your community, your review, basically, I was the requirement of FAFSA and how much that time will save you. Because, I mean, it can take forever to do a FAFSA for students that have not used. That's an excellent requirement.
And so do you go to the high schools to find students? Yeah.
Yeah, this is in one of the strongest groups that we get. They have a very strong migrant program in the school. And one of the things that I do also with this position is that I am able to participate in some of the migrant education activities that they do in different communities. One of the things that I'm able to do also is to participate in the migrant education activities that they have in different schools. And that will give me also a connection to the students. And the best part at this point is that I'm getting a lot of siblings of our alumni. So, and they are really the best, I guess, marketing that we can have. And so I'm very happy. I really love my job and the support that I get from the communities and the work that we're doing.
It's very evident. We appreciate your passion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next program review is on human resources. We have Kelly Munoz, who's Director of Human Resources, and then I believe Alexis Signs, who helped in this, but is now transitioned to payroll, is online there as well. So Kelly?
As well as Tricia Sayer as well assisted.
Tricia. Okay.
Okay, well, good evening. I'm Kelly Munoz. I'm the Human Resource Director, and as what Dr. Ruda stated is that this was a collaborative effort for this program review. So all members took part in the creation and the review for the previous years. With Human Resources, we work with all departments across campus. We assist students as well as the campus community with performing with integrity, responsiveness, and sensitivity. There are areas when you look at human resources of the services that we provide and what we look at, and that is with recruitment, onboarding, coordination of benefits, job classification, compensation analysis, employee training, professional development, compliance. It's very important that we look at policy and procedural review. We look at labor law compliance, federal compliance, employee relations, and we also assist in performance management. So we assist all departments across campus. Throughout the previous years, we have worked together by evaluating the needs of human resources, evaluating the needs of our department. Within doing so, with just that continuous improvement, there are several items that we have been able to implement. Some of those things that we've been able to work on is revising processes for mandatory compliance training capabilities. We implemented vector solutions and through Safe Colleges. And so what we are able to do is for all current employees as well as new employees, we assign mandatory training, and that assists with compliance. Also, we have utilization of an improved process for all of our position posting and applicant tracking. Previously, we utilized a system that did not quite meet the needs within the college, within our department. And so we were able to transition to our NeoEd, and it's an enhanced capability where we are able to, and it fits the needs within our college, within our collaborative, to be able to assist with all of our committee structure, our applicant review. So very exciting that we were able to implement that. And that was done in January of 2020. And so we are continuing to evaluate that model and looking at how we're able to utilize NeoEd and that enhanced capability and that structure within the college. As well, in January 2020, the college transitioned to a new human resource platform and payroll. What that was able to do is that we were able to improve our processes with efficient onboarding. What that did is that took us to be able to onboard new employees with utilizing Paycom, assisting with all of our forms, all of our enrollment, and it's housed electronically and it's able to assist within that payroll structure. As well, we are able to, anytime that we have new forms that we send out campus-wide, we're able to do that through utilizing Paycom. And then there is the acknowledgement as well. And as well in 2021, what we also were able to do with utilizing Paycom is that all employee performance evaluations were completed through the use of Paycom. And so assisting in that process, human resources, what we were able to do together as a team is that we worked across campus with supervisors and employees within any time that you're changing your model and the changing the way that you are completing a process, then it's really important that you educate and you give them the information and the tools to be able to complete that successfully. And that's what we were able to do together. And through that, we were able to have a 95% completion rate. We worked collaboratively and everybody has a copy in front of them. We worked collaboratively as well within our marketing department. And what we started doing is that all new employees receive a new employee guide. And we've continued to grow and improve. I think that document started maybe at a 7 to a 10-page document, and now you see where it is. And from the response, we are actually transitioning with the help of the marketing department. We are transitioning this to an all-employee guide. And what that has been able to do is assist new employees with the resources and tools on their first day. What does that look like? There is a welcome message from Dr. Ruda. There's information about policies and procedures, how to complete a work order. It talks about all of our benefits. It has the academic calendar in there. You see about Title IX, how to report. It has information about our CAPERS and our employee assistance program. And we are going to continue to evaluate this guide and look at what is the information that is needed for all employees to have, that in case they have a question about something, that they're able to open up this document and have a reference tool with doing that. As well, we worked together with creating, and we're working together with just through the department planning and budgeting process. Throughout this last year, we were able to kind of follow that process, and we asked for an additional member within the human resource team. So we went from a department of 2 to a department of 3. Within that, here recently, Alexis transitioned to the payroll coordinator position. What we are doing within that, we are still working very closely as a team and working with payroll to identify, once again, what are the needs of human resources? Where are we at, and how can we best serve our campus community and our students? And doing that in an efficient manner without just going and hiring that additional position. We're just going to evaluate and see what the needs are. Some of the things that are in the plan is when you're looking at kind of the goals and the HR initiatives, we want to continue to develop and maintain a system for an employment and selection that is responsive to the needs of the departments and is free from discriminatory biases. So just continuing to work within our processes and ensure that we are compliant when we look at inclusionary. assisting with the review and implementation of a compensation plan that addresses external competitiveness and internal equity. We've worked very closely and will continue to do that with administration within the tools that we have. Continue to improve processes for, job evaluations and job descriptions. That's one of the things that we work very closely with each department, is that we review the job descriptions. That is something that I encourage to be done on an annual basis to ensure that that position, that description is reflective of that position. We are continuously reviewing college policies and procedures and ensuring with personnel policies that that is updated. We have completed an employee handbook, and we are in the process of reviewing the employee handbook to make any corrections and updates from any policies that were reviewed this year and make those updates. And we will send that out actually to all employees for that acknowledgement and review. It's very important that all employees are aware of our policies and procedures and continue to exploring new ways to incorporate technology within human resources to be more efficient. Some of the things that we have improvement items as a continuous improvement that we are working on. We understand that we need to work on an HR webpage to ensure that all of our resources are available, not only internally, but externally, and have information available, easily accessible regarding not only our policies, but the all-employee guide, the employee handbook, information about benefits, just that resource and tool. When they have a question, we are always available, but they can access online. Another initiative that we have is we want to continue to improve the employee onboarding process. And what does that look like? And we are evaluating and looking at a mentoring program that is very similar to faculty. All new faculty positions have a mentor assigned. So that's one of our goal initiatives that we have, is we're wanting to look at a mentoring program and begin to work on that and implementing that process, and continue to work with each department to assist in identifying any training needs and plans for that continuous professional development and compliance for each department and program. That is a very brief overview. What questions do you have? Yes, ma'am.
I read through it. It's an excellent report. There is one typo that you might want to change, because it says Latricia started October 2022.
It is October 2021.
Yeah,
Thank you for that. Thank you.
I thought maybe before you submit it, you ought to change that.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
The one question I have is, you have mandatory training on bloodborne pathogens, discrimination awareness, sexual harassment.
Mhm.
You have 95% on bloodborne and 85 on FERPA. Why isn't it 100%? What's the consequences if they don't do it?
That is a great question. I
Since
think
it's
we're,
mandatory. Is it state mandatory or federally?
no, I think that is a great question. I refer to that as mandatory training, that it's training that we offer, and we highly encourage all employees to complete that training. And we are continuing to work because we do want that to be 100%.
I was just wondering, I know some are state mandatory for some businesses. Everybody has to do it every year, so.
And we do, one of the things that we do, send that out on an annual basis. And we're continuing to evaluate what other trainings that we should offer through Safe Colleges. That's just one of the mechanisms for trainings that we, thank you. I hope that answered your question.
One of the recommendations here is about facilities and having that space for privacy.
Is there any kind of tentative proposals for what that would look like?
No, not at this time. I did want to put that in there to have some further discussions and review with administration and submit that for proposal. Thank you for asking.
Thank you.
Yeah, there is grade and process improvement that's been made there through the human resources and Kelly's direction. So appreciate her work and her team's work on those.
All right.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So I did hear back. I think he is just getting done. I told him that we would try to jump on with him there around 8. Would it be possible to have Veronica Goosey, our faculty senate representative, jump ahead in the schedule to do that?
Absolutely.
Veronica? Oh, well, hey, we're going to put you on the spot here. But if nothing else, just introduce yourself, I guess. You were just here to listen. Huh?
I was in fact just here to listen. I'm Veronica Goosey. I'm professor of English here on campus, and last year was VP in faculty senate, so I'll be faculty senate president kind of officially in August.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to come tonight to get a sense of all of you.
All right.
How do you spell your last name?
Goosey, just like the bird.
That is not what I had. but that's okay.
Sorry to put you on the spot there.
That's all right.
You did.
You're just that much more warmed up for next month.
That's a lovely way to look at it.
I would just tell you, we appreciate the faculty senate report. Please use that as an opportunity to really communicate any needs that you have. We want to hear the good stuff and any of the other items that you might need some help with. And we're here to encourage you as a leader. So go with it.
Well, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will not have a STEM update there tonight. We'll move that on to next month.
Okay. Incidental information was presented on page 114. Comments, worries, concerns?
Dr. Root, is it typical to have 25 open positions?
It is. I mean, that's typical number. But I would also say it's atypical there as far as the applications that we have coming in for positions. I think we've seen just collectively across the board there, low unemployment, low application rates for positions. So, that part is concerning. We're, continuously evaluating where it is, how it is that we communicate the openings, looking for different avenues and where we can post, trying to be as creative as we can there to generate interest. But the numbers isn't necessarily alarming, but the number of applicants coming in for positions is.
Unfortunately, I don't think that we're alone in that.
No. No, you talk with the school district. I mean, it doesn't matter which industry you're in, whether it's education, whether it's banking, whether it's construction. We're not an anomaly. It's consistent across the board, and it's not just this region. It's statewide, and even nationally, as you talk to others there as well.
Thank
Mhm.
The good news is several of these that are listed have been filled. Just since Kelly submitted that report.
I guess I would suggest, and maybe board members, you could chime in. You guys have innovative enticements that would help. And we need our support. Let us know.
Absolutely. Yep, definitely will.
Okay. All right. Jeremy's on, ready?
Mhm.
We have a need to go into executive session.
you.
Ready?
Madam Chairman, I move that the board recess into executive session to discuss potential properties be acquired
No.
pursuant to the open meeting expectations.
No,
About potential properties.
Litigations.
litigation.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
what does the other one say, potential litigation?
This is about property acquisition.
No.
We are back from executive session, resuming our regular meeting. Just, there was no action taken during the executive session. So next on our agenda is accreditation update. We had plenty of that, I think.
Last night.
Yep.
Hmm.
So we'll look forward to next month. Next item is ownership linkage. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share?
Well, I just have to tell you on the KACC.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Our
that
next
one.
meeting is October 26th and 27th. Well, that's fine.
What is that? No, ACCT is in October. Oh, I
Yeah.
thought she said October.
No, August.
Yeah.
So we go to Fort Scott, August 26th.
August
and
26th,
27th.
27th.
I heard October. Okay, I apologize for skipping over you.
That's okay, it wasn't important.
Yes, it was.
I gave it
You can skip all
I think
day.
I gave the day of the last meeting, so
All right,
it's just so Jody reminds me.
Finney County Economic Development.
I'll preface this with it's kind of hard to do some of these reports due to the confidentiality with potential developers. Economic development members met with a potential investor who's possibly looking at this area. He did tell us that he wouldn't need the college for instruction just yet, but would need several people to work. So potential for students to get good work. I know he met with Dr. Ruda, so I don't know what they discussed. But they're looking at 2 sites. And we're one of the 2, so. And it's in agriculture.
You might go ahead and preface or explain why you can't give a bunch of information.
Well, we don't get to give out a lot of information because they may be in the process of purchasing land, and then so the landowners may really raise the price. And again, depending on the needs and what would be required from the city, county, or anybody involved, could potentially lose it. It may be in competition with somebody, and again, it gets out and then it just causes a whole mess.
And Lana follows up with these people individually, right?
That's right, Leonard.
All right. Thank you for your reports. I appreciate it. Yeah, now ownership linkage. Anything anybody'd like to share? I guess I would just say from the Garden City Wind, very positive comments for the bus for the players. So it's been, I mean, it took a load off of my mind, knowing that they were being driven instead of all of them driving themselves. So
Good. Well, kudos to Sam Ortiz. He he always drives everybody in style there, but he had a great time meeting the players and getting them safely to where they were playing. Sam.
all right. Leonard, anything else? I'm sorry. He is a character. All right, there's some upcoming dates listed on the bottom of page 2. Gosh, less than a month, classes will be beginning.
Where is it in service going to be at? Huh?
Uh, yeah,
I'll find out. and let you
Yes.
know.
Yeah, front gym.
Yes, the scoreboard's not in.
Scoreboard won't be ready.
Correct. Throwback
Shipping
game.
problems. Shipping problems.
Because the high school, the high school field's
Old
getting
high school.
redone there as well.
That's the old high school.
Oh, no. The old Memorial Stadium, yeah.
Any other items? All right, hearing none, I declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Make sure you turn in your board assessment or monthly board assessment.
So once again, you jinxed it. So it's gonna be a short meeting. I'm still waiting for those meetings that used to be when I was sitting out there. How to hear by saying.
Those were built